All right. And we're live. Sorry I'm late. Welcome to paraglidingtalk.com. I'm your host, Robert Michiels. I'm glad that you're here. We're joined by Nick, Anthony Peregringo, Sean Nafsker on moderation. We have a special guest tonight. Chris Cote is with us. Chris Cote, thank you for your service. He just got done, did 20-something years in the United States military, serving our country. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that, man. Keeping us safe. And big part of our show is giving thanks and giving back to the guys that have done something for our country. If you haven't checked out Resurgence PPG, if you're interested in supporting our men and women of uniform, you can do that. You can make a tax deductible donation to resurgenceppg.com by donating. You're sponsoring those who put their lives on the line for your freedom. You can reach out to Todd Scandrett at resurgenceppg.com. But anyways, they have a great organization that sponsors guys with PTSD, or if they maybe got wounded or something like that, and they come back and they want to get into a sport. Paramotoring is a great way to take your mind off of the nonsense and paragliding. And so anyways, they sponsor those guys. Show's also brought to you by PPG Smoke. Ryan Roberts and his team have made all kinds of stuff for paramotoring, paragliding, all kinds of neat stuff. Go check out the website, ppgsmoke.com. Also, the show is brought to you by paramotorprops.com. If you blow up a prop, you're flying your paramotor, you can go to that website and you're going to find a really good deal. Go check them out, paramotorprops.com. Chris, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it. You literally
Thanks for having me on, man.
You landed right where you landed. You walked to the nearest house. You're like, hey, I need to borrow your Wi-Fi. And here we are.
Yeah, pretty much. My retrieve driver, I'm at his house, so just using his Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Tell him I said thank you. Is he one of the guys from the E?
Yeah, he's one of the E-team guys. Yeah.
Okay, just tell him I said, what's up?
Give him a claw.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he clawed back.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So Uncle Bob's already donated to the super chat. Thank you so much. Appreciate that, crazy Uncle Bob. And I appreciate you checking out. Oh, man, I'm getting text message, all kinds of stuff going on. Chris Cote is a local that he was a great inspiration for me for flying. When I first got into the sport, I asked him a million questions, and he at that time was breaking all these records, and he still continues to send big flights. And so I've always been interested in what he has going on in his brain about flying, and so I've asked him to come on the show. And actually, when we first started the show, but there was things getting in the way from him coming on. So I'm really glad that he's here tonight, and we are going to have a great time. So grab some popcorn, stick around. We're going to have a great time tonight. Also, we're going to be giving away some stuff as we do every show, and I have some announcements, some cool stuff for everybody that watches the show. Yes. Okay, I want to start off by saying, how did you get into paragliding?
Yeah, so good evening, everybody, and it's great to chat with y'all. Thanks, Robert, for having me on, and all the moderators. Thanks for helping out, get the show going. Yeah, so I got into paragliding because my friend Wendy, who was in the Navy, she paraglided, and she came on my ship one day. I chatted her up, and she told me about paragliding. And I learned about powered paragliding first, and I wanted to sail around the world, and I still do. And I was intrigued. I was like, wow, this powered paraglider sounds like a thing that I can fit in a sailboat and take with me around the world. And the idea of pulling into an island, setting my gear up, flying around the island, it was just the coolest thing that I could add on to the sailboat. So I started researching it, looking at the PPG part, and pretty much everyone told me you should try free flight first, because you'll just learn the mechanics of the sport better. You'll learn like the foundational stuff, and then you can always add the motor later, is what I was told, and that made good sense to me. So I started looking around the area, trying to find where do they do instruction? And then I found, a few places, and I chose Torrey Pines because it was so close. And I went and I hung out there maybe 4 or 5 times, and I would just, eat a sandwich and just watch, right? And it took me a while to really get the idea that it was safe, right? I wanted to watch everyone do what they do and see exactly how safe it is and see if I wanted to participate in it. And then I was like, yeah, this is pretty safe. I'm digging it. And then it was the money side. I had to justify how much money it was going to be. And when I started, I was thinking, yeah, maybe $6,000, right? But the sport's like an addiction. So I don't know how much I've spent. I would say easily 20 grand on lessons, gear, SIVs. Actually, probably more, come to think of it. Like if you talk about doing XC and paying a retrieve driver and that whole deal, then yeah, I don't know, 30 grand, right? Easily. And I've been lucky enough not to destroy gear, so I haven't really needed to replace the gear too much. I just keep moving up in harnesses and stuff. And usually I do pretty good buying something used and selling my old gear. So yeah, that's worked out pretty well.
So you've
How's that
got
answer?
what are your thoughts about advancement and moving up on your glider? This is it's a question that is more personal. I'm asking because I'm considering making a move. At what point did you decide I'm going to move up on my glider?
Yeah. So I moved very fast with my progression. I don't know exactly why I moved so fast other than just, probably overconfidence. And I thought I had enough figured out that I could progress up. And then a big part of why I progressed so quickly was because I had an instructor, a couple instructors, but a big part of the sport that's kind of missing is mentoring and having a knowledgeable pilot guide you along. I feel like the instructors should fill that role, but the instructors, they hang around until you get your rating, and then they might answer text or occasional call or something. But you're pretty much on your own. You get your P3 and you're out there in the mountains learning from the other pilots and learning on your own. So you're kind of in a world where you're functioning on your own, and you're taking advice from whoever's talking to you, basically. And whoever's talking to you are the most active pilots. And typically your active pilots aren't the knowledgeable, amazing pilots. They've done that. They've done their part of the sport, and now they might cherry pick their days, or they might have a big job, or they, who knows. But who you're chatting with is your peers, basically. You're chatting with low airtime guys, so you're getting a group decision kind of made, but the brains in that group really aren't the best ones for making that decision. And when it comes to moving up on your wing, it's not something that anybody should take lightly, because it has such a direct impact on your safety. I think it takes time, and you got to be 100% that you got your current wing. You gotta be a well-rounded pilot. You got to be able to go out and fly your wing at any day, within reason, at numerous sites. If you're not at that level where you can comfortably do that, then every step you take in performance is untested, right? You haven't tested yourself in fire to know that you can keep your wing open. So when you start moving up and you're still in that same untested frame, all your decisions will be flawed as far as choosing wings. And if you're getting advice from low airtime guys, then it's going to be flawed again, So you just got to be super cautious with that wing choice. And like I said, err on the side of caution. We can't see the thermals. We can't really see a lot of what's going on. And if you cut those margins too thin, then when something happens, it's going to be bad. It's going to be worse than it needed to be. And I'll also say there's a lot of people on super high performance gear that are not using it, and to me, that equates to the same deal as watching someone drive down the highway at 60 in a Corvette, right? You're like, you got all that car, all that epic, but you are not giving it justice, right? That same dude could be floating around in a Civic. So I think that when you start getting into those high performance gliders, you need to go into that realm with purpose, and you need to go into that realm very well prepared and 100% confident, and that means putting in the hours. That means identifying your weaknesses and attacking them, and making lists, making a diary. How's my flying going? How did I do today thermally? How many collapses am I taking? Simple, basic stuff like that we don't talk about and we don't really get in the weeds on, because, we want to have fun and we want to just have a good time. And sometimes performance helps out, like the most common thing I always hear when people want to move up in wings is, I go flying with my buddies and they leave me on glide. And that is true. But there are amazing pilots that can fly the crap out. Is that a cuss word? I don't think so.
No.
There's amazing pilots that can fly the crap out of any glider, and there's pilots that can smoke me on, low end stuff. And that's just the way it is. So there's so much improvement and so much performance left on the table if you haven't fully analyzed all your weaknesses and corrected all your weaknesses. Only at that point, and when you're super current, can you move up in a glider. It's tough. It's a tough decision. It really is. It's very emotional.
Yeah, tell me why. What are the reasons why people jump into a higher class too early?
Yeah, like I said, the getting left behind one is the first one. I think secondly might be just our consumerism. We feel like we need to be buying something all the time. Some people think that their glider is worn out after 200 hours and they're like, I need a new glider, which is not true. You can still fly it much longer. I mean, 200 hours over 5 years it's pretty aged, but 200 hours in a year or two, that glider's like half done basically, So yeah, and wanting to be on the newest thing, and they think, well, if I'm going to buy a new glider, then I might as well go up a class, I see that one happen. People get into comps and they think that they need a hotter glider to perform in a comp well, which there's only a handful of guys that are going to do well in a comp, and you're not going to be one of them. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
I don't do well in some comps. Some comps I do well in, but a different glider isn't going to do it for me. There's so much left on the table in all these other areas that, but people always go to the glider first, and that's just, there's so much, just even thermaling. If you can thermal, 5% better, that's amazing. If you can choose lines 5% better, so you're not getting as much sink, then you probably have a wing that's almost, a level up. There's a lot of advancement you can have in a harness, right? The faster you go, the more the aerodynamic drag is there. So at some point, you need to move to a pod. At some point, you need to move to a pod with a fairing. These are, and a good harness is almost a free performance upgrade, except for one thing, and that is if you take a collapse and you have a really long pod harness, your wing's going to rotate, but you won't rotate so easily, and you're more likely to get riser twists. But and then getting in the harness, kind of, you got to learn that. You don't want to be taking your hands off the brakes. You got to get your foot in the boot. You got to get the boot up and get settled. But yeah, the harness is just an easy performance upgrade for sure.
Love it.
Love it.
What is your all-time favorite wing?
Oh, geez. Goodness.
If you could pick it crispy and brand new, whatever range.
I can't, but I will say that the Xeno is quite an amazing wing for the amount of performance versus piloting and the amount of crap you can fly that wing through. I mean, you can fly it very aggressively in some pretty nasty conditions and it'll stay open, which is pretty amazing to me. Yeah,
yeah.
so I guess the Xena would be it, you know, and I love my Carrera when I first had my Carrera because it was my first high performance glider, and doing wingovers on that was just a beautiful thing, and I love that wing. I still reminisce about my Carrera for sure.
The good old days.
Good old days, yeah.
Let's talk about I gave you a list of questions here. I'm going to move to the next one. How are you a safer pilot each time you fly?
Oh, geez. How am I safer?
Yeah, so think of this, right? We get into the sport,
Yeah,
we say, I know that in 2 or 3 years from now, I'm going to be
yeah,
way safer.
yeah.
How? How are you safer? And a lot of people that tune
Well,
in to watch this, that's what they're looking for.
well, yeah. Let me take you through the timeline of my progression then, and I'll just kind of talk you through how I got to where I'm at. And when I first started, I was like, wow, it's a dangerous sport. I need to be as safe as possible. And I would look at pilots that would do wingovers and stuff, and I'd be like, why are they doing all that extra stuff that could wind up being a collapse, and then it could just escalate. It's like, why are they doing that? Why are they adding? And I told myself, I'm never going to do acro. I'm always going to be the safest pilot I can be. I'm not going to introduce extra danger into my flying. And that lasted all of, I guess, until I stopped flying, until I went to the mountains. When I went to the mountains and started flying the mountains, like, holy cow, this is gnarly. And I almost stopped flying, honestly. I had my first flight at Palomar. Welcome to Palomar, but mine was better than yours.
Wait, what? I don't know about this.
But after my flight there, it was complete chaos to me. The air was just moving in such a violent way, and I felt super unsafe. I took a couple little collapses. My instructor wanted me to find a thermal and thermal. I launched and went out, and I found something, and I made a couple turns just so I thought my instructor would be happy, and I progressed to the LZ, and I went and landed. And my friend Mark that was with me, he landed, and we were both about the same amount of time. So we're chatting about it, and I was like 95% done. I was like, I've only bought a harness at this point. I can sell the harness and just write the rest off as a learning experience to just move on with life and whatever. And that was what I was going to do until I went home, had a beer, chilled out, and I thought about exactly what had happened in my flight. And I was like, wasn't that bad. Nothing really bad happened. I was like, let me give it another go. Let me just see, if it's more manageable next time. And if it's complete chaos again and everything's crazy, then I'm done. And I went back again, and I don't remember the rest of it. It's just been epic, basically. I guess I got past that little bit of mountain fear because it was my first time. And then I was able to settle down, and I started learning how to fly in the mountains. So yeah, and then let's see, from there on out, I flew in the mountains some, started doing pretty good, learning thermal and seeing what's going on out there, learn a little bit more about weather. And then I went to my first SIV, which was right around 100 hours. I did it with Torrey Pines. And at my SIV, it was pretty cool. I loved it, quite honestly. I thought it was a good test of where I was at, and I thought it was a good learning experience to see what the glider can handle and learn some new techniques and whatnot. And my SIV kind of supercharged me in a way because it gave me a lot more confidence. And I was like, all right. And then I came back, and it also taught me some acro as well, right? Taught me asymmetric spiral, taught me, well, when I say taught, I meant it showed me what it was. I by no means mastered anything in my first SIV. I was, shook up and a little bit on edge the whole time, and I'm just trying to not die. Also trying to learn at the same time. And like right around day 2.5 or day 3, I started getting comfortable and started learning some stuff. But yeah, by no means did I master anything in my SIV. But when I came back from my SIV, I started practicing some of these moves, right? Specifically asymmetric spirals and wingovers. I still practice beeline stalls, which we're not supposed to do anymore. But I love doing the beeline stall. It's so cool. Sats, stuff like that. But so I started practicing these acro maneuvers, and it brought a lot of risk into my flying, but it was enjoyable. And I looked at it like a defensive driving class, right? It's teaching you how to drive your car. and it's teaching you how to drive your car when it's wet out, and the thing's skidding around and all that. So it's necessary to do 1 or 2 or 3, however many you want to do, because you got to get that experience, and then you get the experience, and then you build on that, and ultimately you become a safer pilot. So now I can do some wing overs. I can do, a few other maneuvers with real high certainty that I'm not going to take collapses. And it's a good thing, because you want to have those skills, and I can go into that later on and talk about it a little bit, but yeah, so that's how I was after my SIV. And then I started getting into XC more and started pushing the limits of myself and what I thought was possible, and started learning weather better. And I started learning XC routes around the area, and started kind of making some of my own stuff along the way as well. And that just brought a ridiculous amount of danger into my flying. And I guess that's where I was probably the most dangerous that I've ever been as far as flying, like the highest likelihood that I could have gotten hurt or something. And that was probably like, 125 hours until, honestly, just a little bit ago, maybe a year ago, I actually got past what I would consider to be intermediate syndrome. And even though I was doing well, and even though I didn't die or get hurt or anything, yeah, I was still in intermediate syndrome. And I only now can I say that I'm not, because I'm calmer and I'm not emotional with my flight decisions. I can sit out a day and not have it bother me to the extent that it once did.
Or 2 months.
Yeah, a little quarantine or something. But yeah, there was a long period where I could not, it would eat me up just to kind of sit down and not take advantage of a really good day. And I had some mentors, but I didn't have enough kind of holding me back and like helping me out a little bit, because it's just tough sometimes, you don't want to bother like this mentor person. But I wasn't making the best weather decisions, because I was just super inexperienced. I was just going out on the biggest days, best altitudes. Sometimes I was flying in more wind than I should have been. Excuse me. And just generally just being an idiot, a lot of danger I didn't need to have. I should have slowed down that progression. I should have been talking to mentors more. I should have been limiting myself in some aspect, but instead I was just like eating it up like an all-you-can-eat buffet. And that was great, and it really taught me a lot. But my goodness, I mean, I have video upon video of times that it worked out, but it could have gotten super ugly, And I'm a decent pilot. So if other people think they can go out and get crazy and flying the stuff that I was and survive, maybe you can, maybe you can't, I don't know. But I'll tell you, I was super lucky. And that's why I think part of the reason that I always try and give specific advice to specific people, like I kind of look at them and like, what wing are they on, how many hours, and how good of a pilot do I think they are? And then I tailor my advice to that. And 9 times out of 10, I try and help them to make a more conservative decision.
Did anybody try to talk to you and stop you from making bad decisions?
Yeah, I'm sure there was a lot of people.
You don't have to say who.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I won't say. I mean, I can.
Yeah, no.
Good. But yeah, I can't specifically remember a lot of them, but I'm absolutely sure. My first instructor, Danielle, she was one of them. Like after about a year or 2 in, she was like, Chris, you should probably take a break, reflect. And it was her way of saying you're being an idiot and check yourself. But I didn't hear that. I heard, oh, you think I'm tired and you take a break? I don't need a break. I just a guy with testosterone. I'm like, nah. So yeah, there was definitely people that along the way that tried to help me. But I was super motivated, super driven, overconfident, and just out running amok, basically having fun,
We are going to take a quick commercial break and give away some stuff. And when we come back, we're going to ask Chris Cote about a few times when he was out of control. and some of his crazy didn't make it to where he wanted to stories. This show is brought to you by Nebraska PPG. Josh Bowden, he runs a school in Nebraska. If you're interested in getting some training and you're in that area, reach out to him. There's a link in the description. The show is also brought to you by the Tri-State Skywalkers. If you're in the Indiana, Kentucky, or Ohio area, you can reach out to Brandon McCloud. Joining a flying club will help you to fly safer, keep you accountable, and ultimately make you a better pilot. I want to encourage you to get involved with that. Also, if you don't know, Brandon McCloud is working on or has created a it's called Germ Gladiator, and it's a sanitizer, hand sanitizer, and stuff works incredibly. Go to his website, germgladiator.com, and you can tell your company if they can't find it, because they're going to make excuses. They're going to be like, oh, I can't find it. I can't buy it. I can't find it. And it's true. You can't, but he has a whole bunch stocked up ready for you guys. Go to his website, germgladiator.com. The show is also brought to you by iFly Indiana powered paragliding. If you're interested in flying paramotors, there's no better place to get proper training than iFlyIndiana.com. Kevin and his team will get your feet off the ground, and you know you want to fly. Okay, new sponsor of the show, ppgswag.com is the website. You're going to need to go check them out. There's an email coming soon. He's actually the one that's giving away a shirt tonight. So, Sean, if you're ready to spin the wheel.
Woohoo! Yes, I am. I'm done taking names. No more names from this moment on. Boom. Done.
No more names. You're off work for the rest of the night.
That's right. I can actually pay attention to what people are saying now.
That's right.
All right. So let me get this all straightened out here so y'all can see the wheel, because I'll tell you what, it has been busy. Look at all these names here. This is wonderful, right? Look at this.
It's spin time.
It's spin time. All right. What are we giving away?
Best time. We're giving away a t-shirt from ppgswag.com. That's ppgswag.com. Darren Green, he's making all these awesome shirts. You're going to love the website. Go check it out right away.
Here we go. It's spinning. We got a good roll on this one. I got a good feeling, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make somebody's day here.
Is your name in the wheel?
Yeah, yours is too.
You might make your own day. Oh man, missed you. Paramotor Fly Girl. Congratulations, Paramotor Fly Girl. You are the winner, chicken dinner. Please send me a message with your details, and I will connect you with the guys at ppgswag.com. The thing is, you have to go choose your t-shirt and size, and then send the message over to me, and then I will forward it to the guys, Darren Green and his team of t-shirt masters. By the way, there's a link in the description if you want to just go check that out. Really appreciate the sponsor of the show and supporting the show on Patreon. All the people that support the show on Patreon and PayPal. Thank you for keeping the show going, because it is flyable right now, and they are flying. I should turn the radio on and listen to what they're saying at Blossom right now. Anywho, Chris Cote has had some massive flights. By the way, I don't know if you know, Chris, someone is potentially breaking your record as we speak.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I think Ryan Bloom is right now on track. The last I heard, he was at 10 grand, and he was pretty close to where you were, Joshua Tree National Forest.
Yeah, I can't remember where I flew from.
So your record was 61.3 kilometers. Is that right? Hold on, let me pull
it's probably miles, but yeah, I think I flew down to the border. I think I flew down to like Lake Marina, Campo, something like that.
No, this is the opposite direction. They went to
yeah, but that was the distance I went in that direction. So he's got to go that. He's got to beat that distance in whatever direction he goes.
Oh, I see. Okay, got it.
Yeah. That's the way the open distance works.
It's kind of you probably could have kept going, but you don't want to go into Mexico.
No, I didn't know if going into Mexico would invalidate my flight, so I've just never gone into Mexico.
Yeah.
And you can imagine the retrieve would be at a whole extra level. I guess you could wait till night and just crawl over that fence, I guess. I would never do that.
No.
No, but yeah, I've never gone into Mexico.
That's where you just use Border Patrol for a retrieve.
That would be great.
I've seen it. I know it's been done. I
Really?
know that it's been done. Yes, there was a guy that came here from Australia, and he was a speed flying pilot.
Oh my gosh, an Australian.
Yes, an Australian, and he landed, but it was he launched off of El Cap, if you can believe that. It was like 5 years ago. Yeah, and he got picked up by Border Patrol, and they gave him a ride. So Paint Bing, this is Brad. He said Ryan is at 75 miles right now, coming into Lucerne Valley.
Sick.
Yes, that's a big, giant send. Okay,
Yeah,
so
huge.
take us through.
I think he went up.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. You think he went up?
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, I think he went up over San Jacinto, which is pretty epic. The view, but it's also pretty. Excuse me, almost. It's gnarly over there, to say the least.
When you say gnarly, it's that it's high altitudes and crazy weather.
Yeah, and the peak is just there's a lot of dead trees on it that look like toothpicks that want to skewer you. And if you did come down under reserve over there, it would really suck majorly. And basically, by the time you get to that mountain, you've left somewhere, and it's probably about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. So it's well and truly on. And it's right on a convergence, so the winds could be east or west. And it's high altitude as well. So you go up over and the peak, I guess the top of it's about 11 or 11.5. And when you're going up it, you really need a good day to get over the top, because it being 11.5, if you have a 12 grand day, you're only 500 feet above the ground, right? And you could go around the mountain, but the best way is to go up over it. But yeah, it's always been spicy. It's always been real punchy, and you're working upwind, so you're like on some bar, and I get anxiety thinking about it, and every time I go up it, I have to like pep talk myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to pep talk myself, and then I do it, obviously, but it's not super enjoyable. I always pass it. Like once I leave the peak of that and I go on glide, I'm like, big sigh, big like, whew, and then you go, but because you're expect out, and then you just got this epic glide you can go on, and cross banning and keep going on your flight. Yeah, but it's gnarly up there. So
take us through
it'd be interesting to hear Ryan's report on it.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely have him on the show soon. He's been on the show once. Take us through a time when you were out of control, and what you learned from it.
Yeah, so I'll go over a couple of them. First one I'll go over is I was at Blossom. It was a decent XC day. It was frontally and cloudy. And I was there with Charlie Jancic, who's an old-time pilot. I don't think he flies anymore. And he was going to go cross country. And my instructor told me I should get out there and link up with him and try and get in the air and try and follow him. And I didn't really study weather. I just kind of went out there, I didn't have the right clothes or anything. I'm just a beginner. I was still on my buzz, like my beginner high B, I guess. Low B. And what got me this particular day was high winds, basically, in my weakness of kiting at that moment. I didn't have like a and rear technique. I'd put the brakes in both hands, and I grabbed both A's, and the wing came up too fast, popped me, landed on my butt, and I'm like pinned on the rock, and the wing is like there, and I'm pinned on this rock, and it's 15, 18 miles an hour, enough that I'm kind of stuck there, right? And I was like, how do I get out of this? And I could have killed the wing, which is what I should have done. But instead I was like, hey, the wing's there and it's kind of inflated and I should be okay. I'm just going to like give it a little more and get it up and I'll be fine. And when it came up, it plucked me again and I flew over the rocks at Blossom and I landed on top and then got drugged like 20 feet and tore up my pants and whatnot and like scraped my hands. So yeah, that was a out of control, not knowing how to kite and just making a complete idiot of myself. Got very lucky that I didn't get injured.
What time was that?
What's that?
What time of day was that? Like prime
Yeah,
time?
it's probably around noon.
Nice.
Yeah. And
Did
that
you end
was,
up sending it anyways?
no, man, I was jacked up and I was like,
Defeated?
and it just got windier and I was like, you know, is it over? Yeah. I just packed up. So yeah, that was one of them. Another one, I was trying to get a good flight from Horse, and I chose a day that really wasn't ideal to go cross country. It was quite windy, and it wasn't a convergence going on top of the mountains. It was just a pure west. It was just west winds. There was no east to be found. And yeah, I got up. I got to like 7 or so a couple grand over, 2,500 over or something, and milled around for a little bit. And I decided I was going to go for it, you know. And what it was just ambition and just overconfidence. I'll make it work, you know, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, a couple thermals away, I'm over near Laguna, and it's quite windy, and I'm getting low. I'm not finding any lift, and I have to land. And there's this valley, right? And the west wind is coming across, and on this side is the escarpment, you know, 3,000 feet down into the desert. And I come over this valley really low, and I have to land in this valley, and it's blowing like 20 miles an hour, right? So all this wind in this valley is gnarly, and I fly in here, and I turn into the wind, and I realize I have like 3 or 4 miles an hour of ground speed pointed into that west wind. And there's this face over here, and I was like, I could go over a ridge soar that and stay alive, you know, maybe find a thermal and get up and get out. But I was like, what if the wind is so strong when I get over there that I get blown back and then I get rotored by 3,000 feet of face, right? And I was like, nope, not doing that. So I didn't even go over there. I just stayed like in the middle of the valley. And then as I descended, the butt kicking took place. And this was when I was on my Delta 2, and the glider probably had like 25 hours on it. And as I descend into that valley, it's big asymmetric after big asymmetric, lots of pitch movement, but I'm trying to control that as best I can. And luckily I was on a low end enough glider that it forgave all those mistakes and reopened, and I didn't overreact, and nothing crazy happened. And then as I descend down like to the bottom of the valley, that wind stops, and now it gets really buoyant. So I overglide my LZ by like 100 feet. And as I'm overgliding my LZ, I'm like going between trees. And then I finally land in this bush, and I'm just glad to be alive. But I'm like, no one today. I probably landed on a rattlesnake, but there was no snake. But I had to, like, you know, pick my ego up and pick my glider out of all those bushes and then get out of there. And it was probably the only time in my flying that I thought that I was actually going to get jacked up really bad. And I just got really lucky that the rotor was only present in like the top third of the air there, or top half. I was lucky I was on a low enough wing, like I didn't overreact, and it worked out. But yeah, out of control. And that was just all ambition, man. And that was just stupidly intermediate, you know, just I making bad decisions for the wrong reasons, you know. Yeah. So that's the two that I'll go over, unless you want another.
No, that's great, man. I love it.
Yeah.
This is, by the way, this is therapeutic for people with intermediate syndrome. They come on here and they talk about it. And by the way, one of the first signs of somebody who has intermediate dysfunction, they deny that they have it. So you're checking all the boxes. It's great.
Yeah, no, I went through it, man. We all go through it, I think, you know. It's the way the male body works with that testosterone, and their testosterone's a powerful drug. Whether, you know, if people need to realize that when you're young, you're like loaded full of testosterone, you know, just yoked, just out there being a badass. But as you get older, thankfully that testosterone goes away a little bit, and then you get your real head and your real brains. Yeah, and hopefully you haven't destroyed your body by that point, you know, because all that testosterone, you're out there being crazy. You know, that's how you get these yeah. Anyways,
We're still in our prime, by the way. Me talking like that, bro.
are we?
Yeah, man. Prime time. You're 40,
Prime
42,
time. 38.
38. See?
You should always aim low when you're age guessing. So I must look 45 then.
I'm 40. I just turned 40.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Youngsters.
Yeah, we're young. Sean, he's deep in the 50 zone.
No.
He's
No.
kicking
No, sir.
51 field goals.
No, sir. No, sir. I'll be 43. So
Yeah.
I'll be 43. That means I'm 42 right now. If I did my math right. I think I did my math right.
So
I hope
Brad says he wants to know what is your deepest bomb out moment?
Deepest bomb out moment.
Probably that Laguna one sounds pretty good.
Yeah, but that wasn't. I mean, that was a bomb out, but I was right by a road. So my friends were there in 20 minutes. So
Brad just landed there the other day, by the way.
Yeah, like Thing Ranch is where I landed at, like in that valley.
He landed at a camping spot.
Yeah, deep bomb outs. I've always done okay with that. I had one. Oh, well, yeah, I had. So Hot Springs Mountain is not a good place to be landing or even getting low in there. And I've been low in there twice.
Ooh.
Well, both of them I got out, but I got very lucky. The first one early in my flying, and I was on my buzz again, and I launched Laguna with a couple other pilots, and we went on XC, and we got to around Ranchita, and the 2 or 3 other pilots had landed, but my friend was in the truck with them and was chatting with me on the radio, and I was going to land where they were at. And he's like, no, I want to see how far you can go. So I kept going. And I flew by myself, and I went over Hot Spring Mountain. I got really low, like 400 or 500 feet over the ground. And I just stayed alive, thermaling barely. And then I finally caught something that got me up a couple grand above the terrain. Not enough to push out and get out of there, but enough that I could make some progress somewhere. So I looked to the east, and there's this valley. And I was like, well, valleys kind of descend as they go down. I'll just go that way, and it'll descend into the valley floor. It drops down 3,000 feet. Even though I'm real low, I can probably get out of that. So I go down this valley for a while, like a few miles. And I got a little bar on because there's a little bit of headwind, right? Because now I'm on the east side of the convergence. There's a light east winds. So I'm going up against the wind. I'm going down this valley, descending. And I'm like, man, if I mess this up, or if anything happens and I have to land in a valley that's rocky on both sides in 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the desert, I'm like, this is not fun. I can't relaunch in here, and who knows what the hike out is. I don't even know if I can hike out. It could get really steep and be a waterfall or something. So I'm like, man, this has got to work. So I just keep pushing east, and the terrain keeps dropping away. And basically I was birthed into the desert, and I was so happy that I was able to survive that I went hunting for more thermals. And found more thermals. And then I went over to Toro Mountain and sunk out at the base of that mountain, and then had to hike out. And I hiked to a road, hid my gear, hiked across the desert, drank all my water, and I finally got to my friend who was on the other side of this little mountain range. I had to go around the mountain to get him on radio because there's no cell service, and our radios are line of sight, so you gotta be you can't be behind terrain.
Yep.
And I didn't have a GPS tracker at this time, so that was pretty bad. And then I was low over that mountain one other time, and I was able to thermal out. As far as bad bomb outs, there was one other one where I flew from Laguna up to Big Bear, and then I thought maybe I would go towards Marshall, and I got a lot of sink, and I wound up landing near that dam. I don't know what that dam is, but it's halfway between San Gorgonio and Andy Jackson. There's this dam, this big cement dam. And I landed not behind the dam, but on the terrain just to the west of it, like deep, and I had to pack up, and I hiked along the road. There's like a fire road up there, and I hiked along that. Finally got a ride, and I went out to this launch that we use there. It's right by Hangar 24. I can't think of the launch right now. Oh, Mentone, thank you. And I relaunched Mentone, and I was able to glide down to the brewery and get a beer. But there was an hour where I was like, oh, man, this is going to suck if I can't figure something out. But I was able to get out of that one.
How much water are you bringing with you?
Yeah. So, 3 liters is about normal for me. Unless I need more ballast, then I could bring some extra. And I make sure I hydrate really well before I fly, like the night before, so that I'm really well hydrated. And then I might have a liter in the air, maybe a little longer on like a really long flight. So I'll land with about 1.5 liters to maybe 2 liters. And as long as you don't land in stupid places, that should be enough water. But if you're flying, over dangerous areas or out in the desert, or if it's really hot on the ground, stuff like that, then you might want some more. And if it's stupid hot, then stay wherever you're at, get some shade and just hang out with your gear. Don't go hiking and kill yourself. You can hike. You can hike a lot at night, and you can always come back and get your gear. Find a friend with a 4-wheel drive or a dirt bike. You just hide your gear really well and get yourself out when you can, and then you can always come back and get the rest of your stuff. Typically,
that's a great point. Learn how to drop a pin using either your phone or your GPS, so you can locate your stuff way easier, because it's an interesting thing when you land. I've done it a few times now where I've landed somewhere and it looks like, I got this. I'm in control here. And as soon as you land, you're like, oh crap, where am I at? And it's a whole different world. Have some GPS. I've always been a proponent of telling everyone that watches the show, get a Garmin, try to get an inReach, and I pay $15 a month and it's worth every penny. Have you ever had a wing get away from you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, so I had 2 blowouts on my Xeno early on. Big asymmetrics, like 80%, 90% asymmetrics. And on that level of glider, it gets ugly when it goes away that bad. You can take up to like a 50, 60%er and it should, you're pretty good. But if it gets bigger than that, it's going to be ugly in a major way. And I had that happen twice. Once I got a riser twist. The other time it was much better. It went away, came back, but nothing terrible happened. Yeah, so that's happened where the glider got away from me a couple times there.
Where'd that happen at?
Yeah, once I was going XC for Marshall heading west, and I can't think of the name of it. I can think of it later. Just like maybe 35, 40 miles to the west of Marshall.
Would you say it was preventable?
Yeah, I would say it's preventable to an extent, because what led to it was me being stupid, right? So if I mitigate my stupidity in the future, then yeah, it's maybe partially preventable. And what I did on that one is, when you're searching out the core of a thermal, you don't want, and it's really strong lift, you don't want to go raging towards that core like a bull. The best way to do it, like if the core's here, is, and I'm circling here, but the core's all the way over there, just take a little nibble, go a little closer, then do circles, take another little nibble, then do circles, take another nibble, right? What I did is, I'm over here, and I know it's stronger over there because every time I go by it, it's stronger. Instead of little nibbles, I just went straight for it. And it got stronger, stronger, stronger. And I found the upwind edge, and woof, glider gone.
Ooh.
Yeah. So that one I would say is preventable if I can do a little better job thermaling in the future. The other one, it was a big burned out area. And as I approached that area, it was strong sink. And I'm on the rear risers because it's a 2-liner. And I realized that I probably need to be on the brakes because something might happen. So I let go of the rears, and I go to take the wrap, and the glider goes.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't know if that one's preventable, because in order for something to be preventable, there needs to be some kind of preparatory warning, right? Something to cue you to say, hey, that's not cool over there. Don't go that way. And in that instance, it just went away really quickly. So maybe if I can switch faster to the brakes, or maybe I shouldn't let go of the rears. But yeah, that one just went away. Maybe you shouldn't fly lowish over burnout areas. And if you get massive sink there, maybe you should realize that there's a monster living in that area, you know? So yeah, I don't know. That one's probably not preventable. Second one. Yeah.
Ever had to throw reserve?
Yeah, for sure. I had a Trango XC3, and I was going to do a rat race on it, which is the comp up in Oregon.
Yeah.
And I'm getting ready for that. And I'd only had the glider for a few weeks. I'm playing around with it, figuring out what it likes and all that, and kind of getting comfortable.
What glider?
Trango XC3.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so it's a 7 aspect ratio 3-liner, and it's a C, but it really is more like a D. Kind of like the Carrera was a B, but it was really a C. This one's really a D, but it was a C. And if you want to win the sport class, you got to fly the hottest C.
Yeah.
So that's what I thought I needed to do.
Yeah.
You know? Wrong.
Yeah.
You got to be a better pilot to win. The glider is only a small piece of it. Yeah, so I'm at Torrey Pines, and I'm a couple hundred over the cliff, and I'm doing frontals, right? Just seeing what the glider likes, see how it's handling, building confidence that it's going to open and whatnot. And it's all going really well at trim. I do about 5 of them at trim speed, and everything's fine. And then I accelerate to half bar. I start pulling frontals again. And on the second or third one, the wingtips come together and touch in the front, which they call a horseshoe, front horseshoe. I looked at it and I was like, I can't fix that. And I immediately threw my reserve. And at that point, I was probably 50 feet above the cliff. So we'll say 350 feet above the ocean. And I'd immediately grabbed my reserve. I pulled it across my chest. I threw it out. As soon as the bridle extended, I grabbed the bridle. I pulled it. It opened and pulled my hands up. And then it was swing, landed in about knee-deep water.
Ooh.
So, that's what happened. No, I'm just an idiot, right?
That's
wild.
But
the good things in that is that I knew to throw my reserve. If I had waited any amount of time beyond what I did, your chance of having the reserve work drops. So I'll go over what was told to me. And what was told to me is, below a certain altitude, if your wing does something crazy and unexpected, you have to throw immediately for your reserve to work, right? And that altitude, it's person specific, it's site specific, it's condition specific, but you should set yourself a minimum. So 300 feet, 400 feet, if anything happens, if you don't throw your reserve immediately, you could be on the ground in seconds, right?
Yeah.
So be below that, then you just got to throw, man. And if you're not thinking that, you're not going to think fast enough to do it in flight. So you need to already pre-program yourself. If anything happens, I'm throwing. If anything happens, I'm throwing. And at certain phases of your flying, like when you're low, then you need to tell yourself that. Okay, it's spicy. This is not a good position to be in. If anything happens, I'm throwing, right? One step further being safe, if you're already having those thoughts, then maybe you should leave that area. Maybe you should go land. Maybe you should go somewhere else, right? But we're pilots, and when we're learning, we want to make sure we stay in the air. We want to learn and all that, and we kind of overstay our welcome a little bit when we probably should have landed already, right? And then that just enters extra danger, and we do it all the time. We see everyone else do it, so it's like, oh, that must be what we do. But in all actuality, if anything happens when you're 50 feet off the ground, you're hitting the ground, right? your reserve is not going to work. So I don't say that to scare anybody, but just realize that danger's there and that you should pre-think that one through.
I've got a question from the chat, and then we're going to wrap this up. Yankee Paramotor, he said, so where does Chris think the greater exposure to injury lies? XC or Acro outside of the boundaries of an SIV course?
Ooh, interesting question. I'm not super big into Acro, so I don't know exactly how dangerous it is. But I will say that when they started doing the
reverse stuff
maneuver,
yeah.
I thought about that, and I was like, wow, functionally, why? Like, is it just to make it harder? And if it's just to make it harder, then just put a blindfold on or something.
No, it's so you can look at your friends that are following you while you're doing your trick.
But I saw that, and then I was like,
I'm out.
I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
But beyond that, I don't really know. I think that Acro is a necessary thing, and you need to practice some stuff, because those skills are going to save your life, because they're going to help you fly your glider safer. And I guess the biggest one that I don't see people realize is that they go and seek out strong lift without strong descent techniques. If you can't do wing overs, if you can't do an asymmetric spiral, if you can't do some of these descent techniques, if you don't have a drogue chute and you can't do a spiral, why are you seeking out strong lift? Because the situation will present itself where you can't get down.
Yeah.
And how safe are you now? So if you don't learn at least enough Acro to be able to descend quickly, then you're leaving yourself open to danger, right?
Yeah.
So in that vein, Acro is necessary, and it's very important. It's like I said, like a defensive driving class.
Yep.
For
love
your
that
car.
idea. Yeah, same with SIV. I love it.
Yeah.
That
for me
ahead.
personally, the danger has always been in the XC. And like I highlighted earlier, when you're first cutting your teeth in XC, you need a mentor. You need someone helping you with weather. You need someone helping you make sight calls. You need someone helping you choose your lines to fly, all that stuff. And around here, in SoCal, we have many, many sites to choose from. So that decision can be kind of tough, because on any given day, one site might be the best of them all. And you probably won't know that unless you have done it, But
right.
you should get some help on that one. Yeah.
100%. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show, and thank you all for watching. If you want to support this show and keep this show going, you can go to the Patreon page. There's a link in the description. Support the show, $5, $10, whatever you can afford, and keep this show going. You might somebody might learn from this show something that might save their lives. And I love doing it. I think this is a great thing to have for just, come and hang out and learn about paragliding, free flight, and powered. But if you're interested in doing that, follow the links in the description. Really appreciate all the Patreon supporters that I have. If you're interested in looking at who is a supporter, you can actually go to the sponsors of the show. Go to the paraglidingtalk.com/support, and you'll see all the people and their contributions to the show. So thank you all. Really appreciate everybody in the chat, all the great comments and great feedback. Thank you again for all the sponsors that sponsor the show. One sponsor that I have not mentioned tonight is Torrey Pines Glider Port. They are a sponsor of the show. Really appreciate Max and his what he brings to the paragliding community. If you want to learn how to free fly in the most beautiful place in the country, reach out to Max Marion or any one of the guys at flytorrey.com. That's the website, flytorrey.com. And if you're interested in being a sponsor on this show, reach out to me through the website, and we'll get your name and get your brand going. Thank you again, Chris. I really appreciate you joining us. We're going to go to the after show. If you want to join the after show, just drop your info in the chat, and we'll send you over an invite. And so thanks again for watching. Have a great night. If I don't see you on the air, I'll see you in the air. See you guys. Thanks so much. And And we're off the air.